So welcome back, everyone. It's me, Craig. It's episode 140. Last episode, we talked about this camera that I had been using for several years until a couple years ago, and it broke. And I'm going to talk about this particular camera this episode, my new used camera. So before I start talking about this camera, I want to do a real quick recap of the last episode. So 2024, 2025 photos from the phone. In episode 132, I showed you photos from Bethlehem Steel Yard. So last episode, I showed you photos from the train yard. In 2024, I also took some photos from Maine, in Maine. These are those photos. So after a couple of years of relying on the phone for the photos and on the PC, Google Chrome for color processing, this was just after I got back from my trip in 2025, I made the jump to get a new used digital single reflex camera. This one right here, Nikon D7100. But I wanted to learn this in manual. So what I needed to do was I needed to find someone or some course that would make me familiar with all the settings within this camera that allowed me to shoot in manual. I ended up finding a course up at Towson University, which is my alumni, as a non-degree course, one course learning how to shoot in manual. What was also part of that was that I had to also subscribe to Photoshop and Adobe Photoshop and Lightroom Classic. So the major focus of the camera part of the class was first starting to learn with three areas in the camera. One was the ISO, which measures the sensor's sensitivity to light. The other part was the f-stop. That gave you control over the depth of field, how things are in focus, and then the other part was shutter speed. So there'll be more in future episodes diving into those particular parts of the camera. But there was also the assignments that we had to do. And our first assignment was people. We had to find subjects, sort of like portrait shots. So the way it was set up was we took the photos, the digital photos, we had to process them in Photoshop and do a contact sheet, more on that later, and then we had to pick 5 because the critique for the class had to be, we had to make prints of them, 5 of them, and then put them in front of the class so everybody could look at them and give positive reinforcement and suggestions. These are my 5 that I took, plus a couple more as backup, just in case. So those photos you just saw, I actually ended up with 9, which you just saw, of about 250 photos that I shot. That's the whole idea of when you're doing photography, is take lots of shots, different angles, different settings. And then when you start looking through them, that's when you really hone in on what are just throwaway shots, some that are out of focus, they're not working compositionally wise, but you're hoping to end up with some really good shots. And that's what you do with this camera stuff. So that's it for this episode, folks. I'm trying to keep these episodes in that 3-4 minute range. And so next time, we're going to dig in deeper to some of the things we talked about earlier in the camera, f-stops, film speed, and all that. And I'm going to also go into assignment 2 and 3 of the pictures we took for the class. So I'll see you next episode, all about cameras.